I'm Rick Morrow from Air Academy Associates, and I welcome you to today's tutorial on the input process output diagram. We'll address the IPO's linkage to the value stream, the construct of an IPO, and how it represents the anatomy of a process. We will address the importance of measurements and how they are a vital part of the IPO. Our tutorial will close with how the IPO is used to monitor and improve a process, in addition to aiding the organization's leadership, management, and process workers in the daily conduct of delivering quality products and services to the patient. I'm going to begin today by discussing value stream. As you learned in the green belt or black belt training, a value stream represents what an organization, a healthcare system, a medical center, a service line, does that adds value to the customer, in this case, the veteran patient. The value stream typically focuses on the external customer. It is a sequence of activities required to design, produce, and flow a product or service to the customer, along with timely and accurate information flow in all directions. This slide shows the high-level mapping of a primary care value stream. From this mapping, we can see that the activities are pre-plan the visit, and lastly, between the visits. From your training, you know that the activities that are taking place to deliver the required value consist of interconnection of processes. So let's look at the process level. A very powerful tool that depicts the characteristics of a process is known as the Input Process Output Diagram, or IPO. It is a structure or a template that houses all the properties of a process that allows the leader, manager, process worker, improvement team members, and others to learn a significant amount of valuable information about a process by reviewing a single-page document. Now, a significant amount of research, investigation, questions and answers, observation has to take place in order to populate the IPO. Populating an IPO with a specific process is a team-building exercise. Management involvement helps to strengthen the team and allows a manager to ask questions and gain knowledge about the team as well as the process during the IPO creation. It uses the talents of all those involved. Typically, a team develops the IPO so that it is scrutinized and evaluated in order to accurately depict the process of interest. When an IPO is created, the intent is to capture the current state of the process. If a process exists, it is a matter of documenting that process on the IPO. If a process does not exist, then it is necessary to design a process. For this tutorial, we will assume the process exists. The first thing to do is place the process description or name in the middle of the process box. Typically, we work from right to left on the IPO. The right side is linked to the customer. Next, determine who the customer is. In most cases, the customer is an external customer. There are occasions when the customer is an internal customer. There are support processes within an organization where the only customer is internal, such as a staffing process, a finance process, an IT process, a logistics process. The next thing we label is located on the right-hand side of the IPO and falls under the category of output. What is it that the process provides the customer or patient? General categories of outputs include products, services, or tasks to be completed. What is it that adds value to the customer? What is it that the customer or patient wants? The output should be measurable outcomes from the process that will help us to determine the health of that process. These measures are critical to customer, CTCs, outcomes that are measurable, typically falling into three buckets: accuracy, timeliness, and cost. Now we move to the left side of the IPO to list the inputs to the process. Listed here are some general categories or high-level inputs. Most processes that we deal with have input factors that relate very nicely to these general categories. As we look at our own processes, we will want to become more specific, more granular. Normally, Lean Six Sigma literature will refer to the input factors as X's and the outcome measures as the Y's. For you math gurus, recall from your algebra days that the right-hand side of an equation were the Y's or dependent variables, while the left-hand side of the equation had the X's or independent variables. So Y's are the outputs and X's are the inputs. The process outputs are a function of the process inputs. Inputs drive outputs. Our goal in process improvement is to figure out which are the most critical and how to change or control them to achieve the desired results. That's why thinking about processes in terms of inputs and outputs is so very critical. Real process improvement requires finding the relationship between inputs and outputs. The IPO trains us to think in that manner. In the DMAIC methodology, the IPO is used and referred to throughout the effort and is critical in the measure phase and in the improve phase. Before moving to a few examples, I want to broaden the structure of the IPO. There is a term that you have heard many times and probably worked with many times. That term is SIPOC. In the world of Lean and Lean Six Sigma, there are other SIPOC models available. Using the IPO model that we described in the previous slide to create a SIPOC, all that is necessary is to add a list of suppliers who provide some of the inputs to the process and a list of customers who receive the output of the process to the IPO diagram. So now we have a SIPOC. Let's take a look at an example IPO. We will use one of the processes in the primary care delivery system that we looked at in a previous slide. The process of interest in this case is pre-plan the visit. The reason why we typically look at the value stream before we home in on a process to improve is to ensure that we do not suboptimize our process improvement effort by improving a process at the expense of another process upstream or downstream of the process selected for improvement. For pre-plan the visit, the customer is the vet or the patient. The output of the process or the service provided for the patient is identifying their healthcare needs. In addition, the output of the process, which will include service as well as some products, such as forms to be completed, information submittal, test results, and others. The outcome measures that would tell you the health of the process, such as the process in this case pre-plan the visit, and its ability to meet the needs of the patient would probably be something like percent patient needs not identified correctly, and pre-plan not completed timely or accurately. Later in this tutorial, I will bring in a new name for these outcome measures, and that is lagging indicators. We now go to the left side of the IPO to populate the input factors. Input factors are sources of variation. Using team members, subject matter experts, staff members, and others, all input factors should be discussed and placed on the IPO. Remember, you are looking for inputs to a process that affect the outcome of that process. Some of the inputs may be under your sphere of control. Others may be under your sphere of influence, while some you may not have any control over. The wonderful thing about completing an IPO is that it can be a team effort. You now have a tool that, when completed, houses valuable information about your process. It can then be used to drive process improvement. In addition, it can be used to constantly monitor the current state of the process. It becomes a manager's tool for process excellence. One thing to remember, it should be kept current. I want to review another IPO. This process comes from the value stream of inpatient surgery. Recall that the value stream is an interconnection of processes. In this example, it includes processes from admission to discharge. I could actually portray the value stream as a connection of IPOs. This would illustrate that the output of one process is most likely the input of another process. So, looking at the OR preparation IPO, after labeling the process, we can ask ourselves, who is the customer? The ultimate customer is the patient. In this case, the surrogate for the patient is the surgeon. The customer may not have a clue what is needed to prepare the OR room for surgery, so we rely on the surgeon to know what is needed. The surgeon is going to want the correct supplies, equipment, and tools, as well as qualified team members who are ready to go to work. As far as measurable outcomes, as confirmed by several medical center chiefs of surgery, I would propose those listed on the right-hand side of the IPO. The outcome measurements are measures of performance. They are able to reveal valuable information about the process. Once again, these are measurements which tell us the status or health of the OR preparation process. Now we go to the left-hand side of the IPO and list all the input factors that go into that process. Depending upon the number of input factors, it may be necessary to prioritize so that we have those factors we are confident are significant. It is possible for two teams, for instance at different locations, to develop an IPO for the same process and the two IPOs are not identical. Many factors may impact what a team puts on the left-hand side of the IPO. One factor in particular might be the location or the facility. After all, there is variation in all things. The output can be seen as a measure of patient satisfaction and patient experience. The output measures drive action. Based upon the current state of the measurements, a manager or process owner must make a decision. If the process is currently performing at a level of quality that meets the needs of the patient, the decision may be to let the process continue to perform at the current state. If the measurements indicate that the performance level is not where it should be, then the decision may be to improve the process. In either case, the decision is based upon past performance. Consequently, output measurements are typically referred to as lagging indicators. Lagging indicators measure performance already completed. They allow managers to track how the process is performing. They are backwards focused historical data and are acquired over time. Lastly, they are used to determine if a process needs to be improved. There's another type of measurement that is extremely important to the health of the outcome of the process. This category of measurement is referred to as leading indicators. Leading indicators are seen as a precursor to output achieved. They are used to affect the outcome early in the process. Normally, they are linked to lagging indicators and often related to activities undertaken by the staff. Leading indicators can predict the quality level that will be achieved at the output and consequently will influence the value of the lagging indicators. These leading indicators are related to actions inside the process or at the input of the process that will have an impact on the output. Bottom line, leading indicators drive action by staff members or process workers that impact lagging indicators or output measures. Leading indicators help to sustain the process level of performance or improve the level of performance, if that is the goal. A well-documented process flow can help determine what constitutes a good leading indicator and where it fits in the process. There is a relationship between leading and lagging indicators. This slide gives some good examples that highlight that connection. For instance, percent screening appointments not completing all requirements, a lagging indicator. A good leading indicator, percent pre-visits not complete prior to screening appointment. Go down a few bullets, percent admissions exceeding expected time, a lagging indicator. A leading indicator would be something along the lines of percent patients not completing pre-admission forms timely. Last example of a lagging indicator, go all the way down, percent services performed not authorized. Lagging indicator, a leading indicator would be something along the lines of quality and completeness of authorization procedures. In a previous slide, I made the comment that a well-documented process flow can help determine what constitutes a good leading indicator and where it fits in the process. I would like to elaborate on that comment using this slide, which starts with the standard IPO, but then expands the use of the box, which normally just houses the name of the process. I am doing this for the purpose of showing how leading indicators that come from within the process link to the outcome measurements or lagging indicators. This expanded IPO is displayed only for the purposes of this discussion and in no way imply that this is another form of an IPO. It is not. Obviously, the process flow is a tool that is separate from the IPO, but is synergistic when used to complement the IPO. So the process we are going to review is move weight loss. The customer is the veteran. The desired output of the process is to help obtain wellness by the loss of excess weight. The outcome measurements or lagging indicators are percent patients not achieving weight loss goal and percent patients not achieving weight loss timely. I think we can all agree that it doesn't make any sense for the primary care physician to set goals with the patient, such as the number of pounds to lose and the time frame in which to lose the weight, and then to let that time frame pass before obtaining the current weight status of the individual. Clearly, as we study the process flow, we will find opportunities to create leading indicators that will give the primary care staff the information needed at regular intervals to determine if the patient is on course and taking the correct action to achieve the desired weight loss by the designated time. Measures such as exercise plan being followed and confirmed weekly, diet plan being followed and confirmed weekly, patient telehealth data updated daily might be good examples of leading indicators that are related to activities undertaken by the staff and that are used to affect the outcome early and regularly throughout the process. There are some key takeaways from this tutorial. The IPO is a very powerful tool that is linked to value stream and process flow. Much can be gained and learned by creating these tools, templates, flows, as a work unit, a process improvement team, or a natural working group. Creating the IPO, deploying the IPO, and keeping the IPO updated can reap great benefits for leadership, management, and staff. The IPO can be used as part of daily communication or huddles. IPOs are displayed in the mission control room to provide focus and alignment by highlighting key process indicators and measurements. The IPO can be used as a visual management tool by leadership and management while conducting Gemba rounding. In addition, the IPO can be displayed on weekly improvement boards to highlight the work unit's efforts in process performance and improvement. I hope you've enjoyed the IPO tutorial and that it has been well worth your time. Thank you for attending today. Good day.